Scene opens with dramatic, slow-motion footage of Stephanie White pacing on the sideline. The camera zooms in on her face, intense, focused, conflicted. She looks at Caitlin Clark warming up, then looks away. The screen cuts to black. Text appears, one decision, one coach, one player. The entire league changed forever. The basketball world is holding its breath. And the woman holding the power? Stephanie White. The Indiana Fever head coach has just made a decision about Caitlin Clark, a decision that has sent shockwaves through the entire WNBA. This isn't about minutes. This isn't about rotations. This isn't about strategy. This is about everything. Because Stephanie White has been protecting Caitlin Clark since the moment she stepped into this league. She's defended her against critics. She's shielded her from cheap shots. She's fought with the front office. She's even threatened to resign over how Clark was being treated. But now, she's made a move that nobody saw coming. Some are calling it genius. Others are calling it madness. A few are calling it the beginning of the end. But one thing is certain, nothing will ever be the same. What did Stephanie White decide? Why did she make this choice? And what does it mean for Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever, and the entire WNBA? Yanni, the answer is going to shock you. Because Stephanie White just changed the game, and there's no going back. The decision that shook the franchise. Scene opens with Stephanie White in a closed-door meeting with Fever front office executives. Papers are scattered across the table. Voices are raised. The camera catches White slamming her fist on the table. She walks out, her expression unreadable. The executives sit in stunned silence. It started with a simple question. When is Caitlin Clark coming back? But the answer was anything but simple. Because Stephanie White had been fighting a war behind closed doors. A war against the front office, against the medical staff, against the league's schedule, and even against Clark herself. The front office wanted Clark back immediately. The sponsors wanted Clark back yesterday. The fans wanted Clark back right now. But Stephanie White? She wanted something different. She wanted patience. She had seen the medical reports. She had watched Clark struggle in practice. She had heard the whispers of pain, the confessions of fear, the tears shed in private moments. And she knew something that nobody else did. Caitlin Clark was not ready. Not physically, not mentally, not emotionally. And if she was forced back too soon, she could suffer permanent damage. So Stephanie White made a decision that would define her legacy, her career, and the future of the franchise. She ruled Clark out indefinitely. No timeline, no deadline, no promises. Just one word, no. The front office was furious. Sponsors threatened to pull funding. Fans flooded social media with outrage. But Stephanie White didn't back down. She called a press conference. She stood behind the microphone. And she said, Caitlin Clark is the future of this franchise. She is the future of this league. And I will not sacrifice her future, or her health, for short-term gain. She will return when she is ready, not a moment before. And anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me. The room fell silent. Some reporters called her a hero. Others called her reckless. A few suggested she was trying to protect her own job by blaming the front office. But Stephanie White didn't care. She had made her decision. And she was willing to burn her entire career to the ground to protect her player. The medical truth they tried to hide. Scene opens with a doctor's office. A medical file labeled confidential is opened. Inside are X-rays, MRI scans, and a report with bold red letters. Continued play may result in permanent damage. The camera zooms in on a signature, Caitlin Clark's. The press conference shocked the world. But real shock came when the medical records were leaked. And Yanni, what was in those records is terrifying. According to multiple inside sources, Caitlin Clark's injury was far more severe than what was publicly reported. It wasn't just a standard back strain. She suffered multiple ligament tears in her lower back, a partially herniated disc, significant nerve compression, chronic inflammation that wasn't responding to treatment. The surgery took over 4 hours. The recovery timeline was estimated at 18 to 24 months, not 9 to 12. But the team's front office and sponsors pressured the medical staff to clear her earlier. Some doctors recommended more time. Some advised against the return entirely. But the team's front office overruled them. The message was clear: she plays. Period. And Stephanie White found out. She was furious. She confronted the front office. She threatened legal action. She told them, If she plays before she's ready, I will resign. And I will make sure the entire world knows why. The front office blinked. Stephanie White had won, for now. But the war was far from over. The psychological toll, Clark's hidden battle. Scene opens with Caitlin Clark sitting alone in a dark locker room. She's staring at the floor. Her hands are shaking slightly. A teammate walks in, tries to talk to her, but she waves them away. The camera lingers on her haunted eyes. Physical injuries heal, but mental scars? They can last a lifetime. And Stephanie White knew that Caitlin Clark was fighting a battle that nobody could see. Behind the scenes, Clark was struggling with severe anxiety about her future, panic attacks during practice, insomnia, sometimes going days without proper sleep, a deep fear of brain injury, imposter syndrome, feeling like she didn't belong at this level anymore. She had become a shell of the player she once was. The confidence, the swagger, the fearlessness, all of it was gone. And Stephanie White knew that bringing her back too soon would destroy her, not just physically, but mentally. She's not ready, White told a confidant. She's broken. And I don't mean her back. I mean her spirit. She needs time. She needs support. She needs to remember who she is. So White made another decision. She brought in the best sports psychologists in the country. She mandated therapy sessions twice a week. She gave Clark space when she needed it, and pushed her when she needed it. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Clark began to heal. She started smiling again. She started joking with teammates. She started believing in herself once more. But the road was long, and there were still dark days ahead. The ripple effect, how White's decision changed the league. Scene opens with a montage of other WNBA teams, coaches, and players reacting to Stephanie White's decision. Some nod in agreement. Others shake their heads. A few look worried. Stephanie White's decision didn't just affect the Fever. It affected the entire league. Because if the Fever could sit their biggest star indefinitely, what was stopping other teams from doing the same? Coaches across the league took notice. Some praised White for her courage. She's putting the player first. That's what a real coach does. Anonymous WNBA coach. Others criticized her for being too soft. This is professional sports. Players play. That's what they're paid to do. You can't just sit a player because she's scared or sad. Anonymous executive. But the most important reaction came from the players. Veterans who had been criticizing Clark suddenly fell silent. Rookies who had been jealous of her attention started to empathize with her. Players who had been taking cheap shots on the court began to think twice. Because Stephanie White had just sent a message to the entire league. Protecting your players is more important than winning games. And that message changed everything. Players started speaking out more openly about mental health. Teams started investing more in psychological support. The league even announced a new initiative to prioritize player wellness. Stephanie White had started a revolution, and she didn't even know it. What happens now? The future of Caitlin Clark and the Fever. Scene opens with a wide shot of an empty basketball court. A single ball sits at center court. The camera slowly zooms in. Text appears. The best is yet to come. So what happens now? What does Stephanie White's decision mean for Caitlin Clark, the Fever, and the WNBA? First, Caitlin Clark will return, but on her own terms. She's not coming back because of a contract clause. She's not coming back because sponsors are pressuring her. She's coming back when she's ready. And when she does, she'll be stronger, smarter, and more dangerous than ever. Second, the Fever's season isn't over. They've already proven they can win without Clark. Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, when she returns, and the supporting cast have stepped up. This team is built for the long haul, not just for one season. Third, Stephanie White has redefined coaching. She's proven that being a coach isn't just about X's and O's. It's about protecting your players. It's about putting their well-being first. It's about being a leader, not just a strategist. Fourth, the WNBA is changing. The league is finally prioritizing player health and mental wellness. The old mentality of play through the pain is dying. A new era of athlete-centered sports is beginning. And finally, the story isn't over. Caitlin Clark will be back. Aaliyah Boston will heal. The Fever will compete for championships. And Stephanie White? She'll be right there, leading them every step of the way. Because a real coach doesn't just win games. A real coach protects her players. And Stephanie White just proved she's a real coach.